So unlike our other videos, this tier list does have some minor spoilers. It's basically assuming that you haven't quite reached room 46 yet, but that you've done a decent amount of digging around, because we're talking about two different types of rooms that get added to your house. The first are the drafting rooms, which add a permanent room to your pool for the rest of your playthrough. And then we've also got the outer rooms as well, which are of course unlocked through the garage. A pretty simple puzzle. Again, a minor spoiler, but you should have already left by now if you were not interested in getting minor spoiled. So as always, I'm Scoutmaster Demi, and I'm joined by a head playtester, my good friend Shagraz. What's the hoop, Shagraz?
Oh, what's the hoop, Sitches?
Okay, let's start off with the drafting room options. So every time you draft a drafting room, it costs you 2 gems, and you permanently add one of 3 options to your draft deck. Now, oftentimes there's a really tough choice to make here. Obviously, all of these rooms you'd like to eventually add because you should visit every single room in Blueprints at least once, but which order should you go in? That's going to be the primary thing that we're focusing here. So let's start off with the casino. This is a yellow shop room. It is an L-shaped room too. It does cost 2 gems, which is pretty steep, but it also rewards you with a ton of coins, and there's games of chance inside of this. There's slot machines, and there's also a roulette wheel, which you can spin only once. What do you think about the casino, Shagraz?
Casino is pretty okay. It's an L-shaped room, so it's not a dead end, which some of these are, which kind of make them hard to draft and add to your draft pool. But 2 gems is so much. You really need to be getting your money's worth. And the casino is really good. You can make a lot of money, but you can also lose a lot of money, and it is going to waste a lot of time, like IRL time, and a lot of brain power to try to figure out how to maximize, 5 coins here. So I'm a little low on it, but it is really fun. So what do you think?
I have a few things to say about the casino. The first is that the roulette wheel has got 3 different tiers. There's 5 coins, there's 20 coins, and there's 100 coins. The payoffs are all going to be better, and some of them are permanent as well, like increasing your allowance, which is a huge reward. Unlike a lot of these other rooms that you could draft to your pool, that is really relevant to permanently increase things. Also, if you have a broken lever, you can get a slightly better slot machine. The slot machines are pretty interesting because, as Shagraz was alluding to, there is a skill component here. You can re-roll each individual slot up to a certain number of times depending on whether there is a lever on it or not, and there's a lot of fun in terms of the gambling choices that you can make. I don't know if people have crunched the numbers on this. I haven't looked this up myself, but I kind of feel like the casino is a net positive, that if you do spend your time, you can basically get near infinite money. But as Shagraz said, it does take a lot of time. That is a huge component to this. I'd probably just spin the roulette once every time I enter and maybe try to farm a few coins here and there, because yeah, the time is a real deal, but it's pretty fun as a little leisurely activity every now and then. I'm pretty hot on the casino. I would like to give it A, but I don't think it's nearly as good as that. I think B is probably pretty fair. What do you think, Shagros?
I think I would not go above a B because it doesn't do anything super outlandish. I mean, it can, but very rare situations. And it's 2 gems. It's like half the time it'll be worse than a dead end because it'll just be a slot that you're like, well, I don't even have 2 gems to be able to draft this. So I think B's fair. I would even like to go C, but I'll meet you halfway, especially because you do get the high highs of this room, which that is really fun.
Yeah, I think we would go easy A tier if maybe the music changed and it kind of felt a little more lively inside. It's a pretty dead casino. So yeah, let's throw it in B tier. Next up is the classroom. This is a pretty fun room, which will definitely get talked about with the schoolhouse in the second part of this video. The classroom is an L-shaped room. It is a drafting icon room. Every time you draft from the classroom, for every drafting icon room in your house, you can re-roll at least once. So if you just have one classroom, you get a free re-roll, which is pretty similar to the drawing room. It's half the size of it, but you get 1 free re-roll, and then it gets even better with more of these drafting icons in your pool. Also, there's a free apple inside the classroom, which is kind of notable too. Shagraz, what do you think about the classroom?
I really like the classroom. I think we all know that drawing rooms are really amazing. If you want to put a dead end here, if you want to put like a T-shaped room, it really helps you decide. And good chance you find an item in here other than the apple. So I really like this room.
I'll say one thing I forgot to mention was it does cost a gem, which is not nothing, especially because you want to draft a lot of these classrooms, right? It's very likely that you have a schoolhouse, which has filled your deck with 8 of them. Of course, you can have the solitary one as well, which, you might still want to be doing. The classroom might be the last thing that we would recommend adding to your drafting pool because you kind of get classrooms for free with the schoolhouse. I think it's probably B tier, especially because people are always complaining about RNG. Oh, I don't see the pump room. I don't do this, right? It's nice to have more options to make that happen. All right, next up is the clock tower. This is a dead end room. Once you draft the clock tower, tomorrow you will get 1 key for every tomorrow room that you've drafted today. What do you think about the clock tower, Shugras?
Clock tower. It is a dead end room, which is a little prohibitive. You probably don't want to be drafting a dead end room first. You want to maybe dilute it with some other rooms first, but its effect is really powerful. I love tomorrow rooms. They're one of my favorite archetypes. They really enable you to have a really powerful day, your next day, obviously.
I really like the clock tower. In fact, it's funny, the more you play blueprints, the easier it is to figure out how to acquire keys. So it's less of an issue for more veteran players. So I actually kind of like the clock tower, even for newer players. It might be a decent option as one of the first things to add to your pool, just because keys are great. And of course, newer players are always wondering, how can I get more of them? There's also one fun thing about the clock tower. I'm pretty sure this is the only room that can spawn the stopwatch, which is extremely fun. If you have not experienced it for yourself, I would highly recommend it. I don't know that I want to necessarily spoil it for you, but let's just say it leads to some very, very funny moments. And it's not necessarily something you'll always see inside the clock tower, but it's a lot of fun for what it is. I like the clock tower. I think it's probably another B. It's not necessarily like winning your current day, but it's making your next day better. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
The effect's really powerful by itself. It'd probably be an A, but given the dead end nature of it, I think B is pretty fair.
Cool. Next up is the dormitory. This is a purple bedroom. Every time you enter the dormitory after you draft a drafting room, like the classroom we just talked about, you will gain 10 steps. What do you think about the dormitory, Shugraz?
Another dead end room. It is a bedroom, so it does help you with your bedroom, nursery, sleeping mask synergies. But I am pretty down on this. Like I said, there are a lot of ways to gain steps, and steps on top of that being not as important as other resources makes me not really like the dormitory as much. Just 10 steps, and half the time it's not really 10 steps because you have to run back to it from wherever you are. There are times where you place this in a really good spot and you have a classroom day going, a schoolhouse day, and you are gaining infinite steps. So you can do really cool things with it, but majority of the time it's just kind of going to be a nothing room that maybe will give you 10 steps once, maybe twice. Yeah, not too high on it.
Honestly, I'm the same way. I was actually thinking about it just now, and I wonder if the regular bedroom is just better than the dormitory because it continues, right? So it's pretty easy to get a lot of value passing through a room that keeps going on a path. It's kind of annoying having to run all the way back to the dormitory, and then you might not even profit steps in that regard either. It's a little awkward being a dead end. Now, I will say this is one of the few places, in fact, maybe the only place other than a trading post where you can get a hall pass. That's a very cool and strong item that does encourage hallways, makes resources easier to get, but then you're not even guaranteed to get it inside of the dormitory. So I don't know. I kind of think D for dormitory, to be honest with you. This might be the absolute last thing you add to your drafting pool. I will say it's kind of funny, though. I do enjoy that visually, if you look at the graphic of the dormitory, and when you enter it, it's just smaller than other rooms. I think that's really thematic and fun. But yeah, I don't know. I don't love this room personally. I do think it's D tier.
Demi was saying the hall pass is a really good item. If you make a chain of hallways, then it can be easy to traverse. But maybe try this like later on when you've done other stuff, because it is definitely like hard to pull off. So
yeah, you got to jump through quite a few hoops to make the dormitory really worth it. So the Dovecote is an L-shaped room, and it's got a very special effect. While the Dovecote is in your drafting options, so not even something that you've chosen for your house, but among the 3 options that you can pick, you can freely rotate any of the rooms that you have drafted. What do you think about the Dovecote, Shagraz?
the Dovecote is amazing. How many times have you been like, I just need to go up here. I'm coming in from the left side. I just need anything to face up. And then you get a bunch of L-shaped rooms facing down and your day's over. So the Dovecote saves you there. Just being able to free rotate, free value, just being an option is really powerful. And it happens multiple times if you don't draft it because it'll stay in. The free nature of it is just really strong. You just kind of always want to see this.
I absolutely love the Dovecote. It's a really unassuming effect. You might read it and think, oh, that seems pretty good, but it's way stronger than you even think it is. In fact, I kind of think it's S tier. It's super unique in that you don't have to or even necessarily want to draft it itself. As Shagraz said, you can see this multiple times throughout your day if you're lucky, maybe with the Solarium, which we'll talk about soon. Also, if you do have to draft it, there are some digging spots in there. So pretty fun. You definitely want to enjoy it at least once and get that visual aesthetic, but maybe maybe not something that you want to be picking right away. You'd rather have it in your pool, which is super unique and cool. All right, next up is the Solarium. This is a powerful green room. It is a dead end and it does cost a gem, but it makes it so that rare and unusual rooms are more likely to appear while you have the Solarium in play. What do you think about the Solarium, Shugraz?
I really like the Solarium. It's a green room, so that helps with your green synergies. It's really nice that you can be able to find this if you maybe like draft a greenhouse earlier, make green rooms more likely. The one downside is it is a dead end, so adding another dead end to your pool is a little prohibitive, but its effect is really powerful, letting you see rare rooms and kind of letting you progress more in the game because rare rooms are usually more powerful. They give you more effects. They usually, not all the times, but hold a little bit more secret things that you haven't seen before. So in that sense, Solarium is a really powerful room, even with its dead end nature.
Yeah, just like Shugraz said, you want to visit at least every room once in Blueprints. Solarium makes that happen. I have a really fun decision every time I see it because oftentimes it'll show up in an awkward spot where I don't necessarily want to throw a dead end, but then maybe it might make my one or two other paths much more enticing and exciting. So it's a really cool interplay here. I think the Solarium is very, very powerful. It might not be S tier, it might be an A tier room because it can ruin certain pathways you're on, but frankly, I love it so much. And even if your whole day is just seeing one rare room that you've never seen before as a result of the Solarium, that was probably a pretty good day. So I think S for Solarium. What do you think, Shugraz?
The dead end nature of it is a little prohibitive, but yeah, I can see S. It just really lets you see more in the game, and knowledge is power in this game. So yeah, I like S tier for this.
All right, great. So next up is the Kennel. This is a corridor. Every time you dig in a room, you will unlock all the doors in it. So if you have a shovel and you can dig in a spot with multiple pathways, all of those doors will instantly unlock. You won't need to spend any keys on them. What do you think about the Kennel, Shugraz?
The Kennel, what a great room, honestly. It's weird that it's a blue room because it really works well with the green build because green rooms are more likely to have dirt and you want dirt. It's the easiest way to dig things up and it just makes things unlock, kind of negating one of the resources that you need to gather. In this case, it's keys. It's really powerful. The only problem is you kind of need a shovel to make it work or it kind of just does nothing. That being said, it's an amazing room. It's just a really good passive effect that will just help you out throughout the day.
Yeah, I really wish that the Kennel had even a decent chance of spawning a shovel or something. It's kind of frustrating that you could have this room and just never see the shovel whatsoever, but I think that's probably by design. This is a very powerful room. Keys might be the most important resource. It's a little debatable between keys and gems, especially as you get later on in the game, but I think they're really important to solve, and Kennel does do it. So if you can assemble that combo, it's very powerful. Also, a fun thing about the Kennel is that you get these little dog woofing sounds, and you're surrounded by dogs that you could pet. So kind of hard to give it a bad rating. There are some things that you have to set up for the Kennel to really work. And for that reason alone, I think probably B tier. I don't know.
I think it's an easy A tier. It's just a good room. It's a corridor type room, straightforward, which you don't get a lot in your draft pool. Its effect is just so powerful. Yeah, you do need a shovel, but you get a shovel easily 50% of your runs. I think it's easy. It saves you once you have it, it saves you so many keys.
Yeah, that's fair. Especially when you draft the Kennel in your day, you think, okay, let's focus on green rooms. Those are very likely to have shovels. Your commissary is likely to have it too. It's not like shovels are such a hard item to find. And it is really, really powerful to be able to say keys don't really matter as much as they used to. So, all right, I can respect it. Last but not least, we have the Vestibule. It is a 4-way hallway, but every time you enter it, 3 of the doors are unlocked and 1 of the door locks. What do you think about the Vestibule, Shugraz?
It costs 2 gems, 4-way doors, but everything in here is unlocked other than the one door. But you can just step out real quick and step back in, and a new door will be locked. If the one way you needed to go was locked, you can spend 2 steps, and more likely than not, it'll be unlocked. And worst case, you're out of steps, you can use a key to open that door. It's a 4-way permanently unlocked that costs 2 gems. It's pretty good. What do you think, Demi?
So I'm one of those people who's kind of high on the passageway. I know that that's a pretty polarizing room, but having 4 open spots is very, very powerful. This is even better because you basically guarantee that all 4 of these options are unlocked. That is extraordinarily powerful. We were just talking about the Kennel, where maybe you can unlock some doors if you have a shovel and if there's dirt in the room and if the room wasn't already unlocked to begin with, right? there's several steps you have to go through. Vestibule, the steps are literally steps, right? You walk in, is your pathway the one door that's locked? If it's not, step out and come back in. That's only 2 steps, right? So I personally love the vestibule. It's hard to throw it an S because of the cost, but I think it's a very strong A, and I think that you really can't go wrong with the vestibule in your drafting pool.
Yeah, I will say that in the beginning, four-way doors are really appealing and they seem really powerful, and they are, especially when they're free, but the 2-gem cost is very high and you are losing a lot, so I really want to make that very clear.
I see what you mean, because maybe this wouldn't be the first thing that you should add as far as the drafting pool goes. Obviously, A, we're discussing its power level, but this is also assuming that maybe you've got your gem economy more together. If you are still figuring out that sort of stuff, the vestibule should probably wait for one of the later options, right? Because you are giving up on a lot of valuable rooms. And in fact, it's really scary to have no gems, because then you start getting locked into room choices that you have no power over, right? That's going to lock you out of 1 or even 2 of the options. All right, dormitory, maybe not the most exciting, but overall, these are very good rooms to add to your pool. And again, you should definitely add all of them and visit them at least once. All right, next up, we've got the outside rooms. When you start your day, you can spend some steps for a powerful room effect. All of these are solid in their own way. It'll cost you 4 steps if you just run to open it and leave. Some of the rooms are like that. It'll cost you 6, of course, if you do enter it. My personal practice here, I like to draft a little bit of my main house before going outside. I like to go through the wings and get a bit of a sense of where things are going to be. And then when I go all the way back out to the entrance, when I start to push north, then I will go outside and see what do I want to build around. But of course, that's up to you as a player. Some rooms are stronger if you go immediately and start it off, like the root cellar. So it's really a matter of preference. And I think that's one of the more underrated aspects of Blueprints as a strategic game. Okay, starting off with the Hovel. This is a purple bedroom with a very special effect. Whenever you draft a room for that day, instead of spending gems, you spend 3 steps per 1 gem that would have cost. So that vestibule we just talked about that would normally cost you 2 gems, instead, if you have the Hovel, it would cost you 6 steps. What do you think about the Hovel, Shagraz?
Like we always say, steps are kind of a dime a dozen. They're kind of cheap. You can get them really in abundance. So using them as a resource to open doors instead of gems is just way easier to do than spending gems.
There's 1,000 ways to get more steps in this game, and the fact that the Hovel is a bedroom itself also has great synergies with rooms like the servants' quarters that might care about things like that. I think the Hovel is insanely good. If you think about rooms in this game that cost 2 or even 3 or even more gems than that, this is the way to access those rooms. They're all very powerful. Steps are something you can easily get more of. If you'll recall, we just talked about how 2 gems is a lot and how it's really bad to have 0 gems, because then you get locked out of some of your options and therefore you get forced into awkward situations. Well, when you have the Hovel, you don't worry about that at all. The opportunity cost of picking up a ton of gems, not a thing at all. It's way, way, way easier to spend steps and even gain more of them than it is to amass this gem hoard. Another cool thing about the Hovel is that your gems still have a use. If you draft a study, then you can use all of your gems on rerolls to have a very powerful room. And it's also got a subtle combo with the freezer. Normally, when you freeze your gems and your coins, you can't actually spend them, so you do get locked out of certain rooms that might require that. But with the Hovel, that bypasses it completely. You just get to spend some steps. So you can get an early freezer and still see how you do. It's a very, very powerful room, an easy Esther, in my opinion. Do you have any thoughts on that at all, Shagraz?
No, I think it's easily S. I'm not going to debate on it.
It's sweet. Let's throw it up there. Next up is the root cellar. This is a green room. And when you draft the root cellar, it makes it so that rooms in your house are more likely to have digging spots. The root cellar can also make dig spots appear in rooms that they would never normally do. And in fact, the root cellar itself has 6 or 7 dig spots as well. So what do you think about the root cellar, Shagraz?
The root cellar is a green drafter's like best friend. They love this room. I am not a big fan of green builds and using shovels and stuff, so it's not my favorite, but it is very powerful. It gives you so many resources because they're just dig spots everywhere. You do need a shovel, which is probably its one big downside. I've drafted root cellar many a times and not seen one single shovel, and that really feels bad. But other than that, like if you have a shovel, if you have a root cellar, it's incredible. And like we said, we're talking about the kennel, that combo is also really good. So
I think the difference here between the kennel and the root cellar is that the kennel has a really low opportunity cost. Like even in a world where you draft it and you have no shovel whatsoever, at least it's a corridor, like at least you're moving forward, it's not costing you any gems. The root cellar has a secret cost in that you're not picking either of the 2 other very powerful options, so it does feel really bad if you don't get the shovel. I kind of think the root cellar is a C tier. I think if you can build around it, it is very powerful, maybe one of the most powerful options, but that is really contingent on the shovel. And with a lot of these other rooms, you don't have to jump through so many hoops to get your payoff payoff. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the fact that it's such a feels bad when you don't have the shovel, and I'm not a big fan of it, but if you're a big green drafter, I could see this easily being an A or even S tier for you, but for me personally, I'm okay with a C tier.
Yeah, I could not agree more. All right, next up is the Schoolhouse. This does add 8 classrooms into your drafting pool, and it's a drafting icon as well to make your classrooms even better. We talked about the classroom earlier, but what do you think about the Schoolhouse, Shugraz?
The Schoolhouse, now this is a really fun way to draft and spend your day because you kind of want to be drafting as many classrooms as you can, and they all help each other. So it's kind of like now the classrooms are synergizing with each other, making themselves even better. Being able to open up a classroom and reroll 5, 6, 7 times sometimes is really powerful. You can kind of take your pick. You can chain them. You can get some really rare rooms. Like I often like to chain them, but you get so enticed. You see a rare room you've never seen or a really powerful room, and you're like, oof, I kind of need it. It's really fun. The one downside is classrooms do cost a gem, so you are very dependent on your gem economy, which, like we said, is kind of difficult to achieve. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a really awkward room, the Schoolhouse, because it would combo so beautifully with the Hovel, but of course you can't have both of them together. It's nice that you get an apple inside of these classrooms, so if you have a laboratory experiment that cares about apples, or if you have a constellation that makes them more effective, you can squeeze a little extra value out of that too. And like Shugraz said, right, you can chain the classrooms together really easily if you can keep re-rolling, but yeah, you might also get enticed by a really rare room. So even in the worst case scenario, even if you only end up drafting 1 or 2 classrooms in that day, you're very likely to have gotten something really solid out of it. That being said, probably still wouldn't pick the Schoolhouse until you know that you have a decent amount of gems. Maybe if you use the freezer the day before and had maybe 4 or 5 to start the day off with, then you can start to really get excited about the Schoolhouse. I think I'd probably throw it in C tier, even if the worst case scenario is still pretty decent, only because, again, the other options that you could pick are very powerful, and there's a big cost in picking one of these outside rooms that isn't doing you nearly as much.
Yeah, I could see C. I could even see a D tier. Compared to these other rooms, it does change the way you play the day, so that is really fun and it's a different change of pace, but immediately it's not really giving you that much benefits and some of these other rooms are just really, really powerful. So I could see D.
I will say that I think the one thing that would maybe give me the bump over it is because, again, even in the worst case scenario, you're probably seeing some rare rooms out of the classroom. And the classrooms are genuinely fun. You can learn a lot about the world. You can have a lot of enjoyment with it. And it's pretty fun to combine your one classroom with these 8 classrooms and have a really great day. So yeah, I think let's go to C. I think it's a little bit of a nod there, even though it's definitely not as powerful as some of these other options. Okay, next up is the Shelter. The Shelter protects you from the next 3 red rooms that you would draft. So for example, your dark room will be lit. You won't get screwed over by archives. You won't lose half of your steps from the weight room. Also, the Shelter has a computer terminal and it's got a safe as well. What do you think about the Shelter, Shugraz?
The Shelter, I really like this room. I'm a big red drafter. I love drafting the red rooms. Now, half the fun of that is mitigating the downsides. So this is a little, it kind of cheapens it a little bit, some may say, but it's nice every now and then to just being able to draft an early archives and say, I don't have to deal with the nonsense. It's a really powerful room. It stops some bad effects. The one downside I would say is there are some red rooms that kind of aren't too bad of downsides, like the Chapel, and if you draft that early, which you're more likely to because it's more common, that it's kind of a waste and does nothing. The Shelter computer has a really good effect though. If you manage to pull it off, you kind of unlock all the doors, so that is a nice little cheeky extra thing. That's like very minor. You're very unlikely to do that. I still think it's a really powerful room though.
Yeah, I'm really big on the Shelter, and this sort of validates that strategy I was talking about earlier, where I like to draft on the wings first, and then as I loop back to the entrance hall before going north, I'll start to go and open up my backside. And for that exact reason Shugraz said, right, let's get those chapels out of the way, let's get maybe the gymnasium out of the way, and that way we can make it so that our Shelter is protecting against really powerful red rooms that have really big downsides. I love the computer in this. There's a really big upside to it. I know we're a minor spoiler video. I don't want to necessarily sell it out completely, but let's just say the later you go in the game, the more powerful it is to have a computer at your beck and call. Also, if you're curious, the radiation refers to a laboratory experiment. So if you can pull off, I think maybe 5 or 6 laboratory experiments in one day, like Shugraz said, you will open up every door. You won't need any keys whatsoever. So there's a really strong payoff here too. Also, you should try to visit every red room over the course of your playthrough and see how the Shelter protects against it. I won't say much more than that, but there's some really fun effects there. I love the Shelter. I find myself drafting it almost as often as Hovel, maybe not nearly as often as it. I kind of like S tier, but I think I could live with an A tier. It's got a lot of medium powerful effects. Maybe it's not nearly as almighty as the Hovel itself, but I think the combination of all of these medium to strong effects makes it a really appealing choice. And you don't have to bend your back over. It will just do work for you every single run. Absolutely love the shelter. It's a strong and reliable option.
Yeah, I can see that. I think A or S for sure. I am definitely picking this pretty much almost every time I see it. It is really powerful. I could see S for sure.
I love it. S for shelter. I mean, again, it's a really strong and solid effect. Next up is the shrine. This is a pretty simple one too. You make an offering with your coins and you receive a blessing. The blessings are determined by the amount of coins you spend, but I believe you only need to spend even a few to get a blessing. What do you think about the shrine, Chug Rose?
Oh, I love the shrine. This is one of my favorite rooms in the whole game. Definitely top 5. I love the blessings. They're all really fun. You can go crazy with 50 coins, or you can just throw in like your 2-3 allowance that you have. It's really good. It'll give you a semi-permanent effect. It'll last for a few days. And just having a little extra agency, a little extra powers really helps your days. But yeah, I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, all the blessings are relevant in their own way. I believe the number of coins you spend just affects the duration. I don't know that you necessarily affect the blessing, though maybe that's possible too. And I believe that you cap out at 80 coins as well. So these are all fun things to think about with the shrine. Also, you could take the money back. I wouldn't recommend it, but there is a world where that's a thing. I think the shrine's an easy A tier though.
I think easy A tier. You're not taking it every time you see it because sometimes you'll see it and you already have a blessing and then it does nothing. So I think if you don't have a blessing though, you should probably take it, get a little blessing, and then play your days out from there.
Yeah, even if you spend that entire day just farming coins for the shrine, that's a pretty good day that you've spent because you're going to make your next 4 or 5 or even 7 days way better. And next up is the tomb. This is one of my all-time favorite rooms. Every time you draft a dead end while you have the tomb in your house, you will spread 5 coins inside of the tomb. What do you think about the tomb, Chug Rose?
The tomb. I'm also a big proponent of the dead end drafting. I think drafting dead ends really helps out your day, and dead ends usually have a lot of resources. So this just kind of helps you kind of get in the feel of, okay, well, I should be drafting more dead ends. I just had a game the other day where I drafted the tomb and I drafted, I think, 14 dead ends. I went a little crazy. I got a lot of money. 5 coins per dead end is a lot. It adds up really quick.
And you had a pretty full house too, right? It's not like you were even screwing over your layout. I believe you still had like over 40 rooms.
I had one spot, but everything else was filled out. It just goes to show you that you can indeed draft dead ends and still have a pretty big house, so don't be afraid of them. So this will help you out there. 5 gold is a lot. That really helped me out throughout the day. And it synergizes really well with conference rooms, so you don't have to walk all the way back down. But even if you do, like we said earlier, steps are cheap. Get a kitchen, you'll have the money to start walking. I really like this room. It's maybe not as powerful as these other rooms, but it's really good.
Yeah, it's really hard to rank the tomb. There's so much to talk about and so much to say about this beautiful room. You just absolutely have to see it and explore it with your own eyes. I could see B or even A. It's a little hard to say just based off of our criteria, but I think as Shagra said, you can synergize really well with a conference room and a kitchen. You can spend the money that you're about to get from the tomb to sort of rebate you the steps and maybe even profit you some while you have some extra coins in your pocket. I'm really on the fence here. I might want to give the tomb the bump to A just because every player should really experience it. I love visiting this room. I know, speaking strictly, if we're just talking about game mechanics, it's definitely a B tier room, but let's give it the bump to A. If you see it, you have to check it out. Next up is the tool shed. This is a very simple room. You get 2 special items from it. What do you think about the tool shed, Chugruz?
It's really simple. Usually people take this first because they read all the other stuff and they're just like, I don't know what any of this does. I don't understand it. I can just get 2 items. It's the best closet you'll ever draft. It's amazing. Not as flashy, but starting your day off with, a metal detector and a shovel, or a shovel and a sledge is really, really powerful. Not that flashy, but it's a nice bread and butter B, I think.
You want to talk about not bending over backwards. This is it, right? You just get 2 solid items. Special items mean that you're not going to get anything garbage like a coupon book or whatever. Like Shagra said, you'll get metal detectors and awesome stuff. You can even get more rare stuff like gear wrenches and things of that nature. I think it's good. It's definitely got a lower ceiling than some of these other rooms, but it also is very safe and powerful. I think B tier is the exact spot for it, just like Shagra said.
And a lot of these rooms kind of change the way you play the game. It's a tomb day after draft dead ends. It's a hovel day. I'm going crazy with steps. It's a shelter day. Like, I'm going to do some red stuff. Root cellar's a green build. Schoolhouse is classroom build. You get the tool shed and it's just a normal day, just a little bit better. Playing the game normal is really fun too. B tier for sure.
Big agree. And last but not least, we've got the trading post. This is a shop, but unlike money, you are trading items. What do you think about the trading post, Shugraz?
Trading post is a really, really, really fun room. It's good that it's another shop. You get some synergies there with some experiments. It's really fun, but it's really hard to kind of pull off because you need a lot of items. You normally get a decent amount of items, and you're not really locked into one specific item like the root cellar. So what do you think?
The trading post is interesting. It does make other shops better. Like the commissary is already a good room once you have your money situation solved. So now you can buy even garbage items from the commissary and still get something decent out of them. It's worth noting that you can trade down any item to a resource, right? If you keep trading, you can turn it into gems or ivory dice or even a key. So every single item really does have relevance, even if you feel like most common items are not as helpful for you in the mid to late game. I also love that you can get allowance or even upgrade discs if you trade rare items. You don't always want to be doing that, but let's say you've got a showroom and you have some money to burn, you can permanently buff the rest of your playthrough. That's a super tangible thing from the trading post that is unique compared to a lot of these other rooms. The closest thing would be the shrine, which is temporary. So the trading post definitely has some good uses there. I also think the trading post is just fun. It's probably a B tier. You do have to jump through some hoops and you do have to spend a decent amount of steps going back and forth, but the fact that you can just convert anything, your salt shakers and coupon books, into gems and keys at the worst case scenario, I think it's solid.
This can get you out of a pinch. You're like, I'm out of keys. Maybe I go trade down, get a silver key or just a normal key. So it's always nice coming back once you have more items and seeing what's for trade.
Without going too deep into spoilers, I wanted to clear out my inventory. I didn't want to have a whole bunch of garbage in it. So the trading post, again, does combo very, very well with the showroom. So if you have your gems and your coins together, that's probably when you want to start picking the trading post. I don't know that I want to start picking it in the early game or before I've started figuring out a lot of these mechanics. Yeah, I think B tier. Again, they've got some solid payoffs.
And it doesn't really change the way you draft your day. Like, yeah, you're drafting a little bit more shops to get more items, but you kind of always are looking for more items to help you out throughout your day. So it is kind of like the tool shed where you're not really playing differently, but it does give you a little fun mini game of let me go and trade some stuff. So I like B tier.
All right, well, that was our tier list. As always, do let us know what you think. We're always happy to make content for newer players. We're trying a different approach here with some minor spoilers in this video. Maybe one day we'll make a bigger, huge, comprehensive room tier list with more major spoilers considered with it. So as always, let us know in the comments if you like that kind of stuff. Make sure to watch your own spoilers yourself as well. And yeah, thank you as always to Shugraz, a head playtester for Blueprints, for joining us, sharing his expertise. I'm Scott Mastudemi, and we'll catch you around the campfire.